Good morning, this is Angela with Parkrose Permaculture. We are having a road trip today, so I'm taking my eldest child and my dad up to Woodland, Washington, about 40 minutes outside of Portland, to visit the Hulda Klager Lilac Garden. Hulda Klager Lilac Garden is pretty much the premier collection of rare varieties of lilacs anywhere in the world, and we have the opportunity to drive a short trip north up I-5 to visit it. So we're gonna do that today.
The first thing you see when you enter the garden is this enormous ancient wisteria, which is a great place to take family photos. While it may not be as showy as the flowering plants, getting the opportunity to see a giant, healthy American chestnut was a real treat. Hulda's family immigrated from Germany in the 1890s and built this gorgeous Victorian farmhouse on their 4-acre farm. Once you pass the main house, you are greeted with an enormous display of lilacs. Hulda Klager began breeding lilacs in 1905, following an illness during which she was bedridden and read about plant breeding. This pink maiden's blush lilac is very fragrant and is one of the varieties she created. You won't just find lilacs here. Many other flowering specimen trees exist, like this double file viburnum. 9 years ago, I was taken aback by its beauty, and it is even more spectacular now. You can find it situated under the family water tower. This deep purple variety called Frank Klager was definitely a favorite. Small walkways through the lilacs are tucked in all over the garden, providing hours worth of strolling and enjoying the grounds. Large, well-manicured lawns set off the plantings of lilacs and the specimen trees in the garden and help provide rest for the eyes amongst the generous display of blooms. Every plant in the garden is clearly labeled. I took notes as I went around, so I knew when I got to the plant sale at the end which varieties I wanted to take home with me. I love that the lilacs are allowed to reach their full height and width so that you can see how they would look in your garden if you gave them as much space as they wanted. I'm generally not a fan of white lilacs because as they age, they turn very brown, much like white roses. But at the peak of their bloom, these enormous white ones were beautiful. In my opinion, Agincourt Beauty was the most opulent of the blossoms in the garden, just enormous. Glory made it onto my list of varieties that I definitely wanted to take home with me. It was very, very fragrant. One of the farmstead's original pear trees still exists. Now, the garden experienced a significant flood event when Hulda was in her 80s, and she worked tirelessly to restore it. My father took home this little variety for his garden. It's called Korean Dwarf. Everything about it is petite, from the leaves to the blossoms to the total height. As you wind your way out of the garden, you pass many beautiful non-lilac trees, like this magnolia liliflora, which was spectacular, and these lovely yellow azaleas.
I'm back home in my front yard garden in Portland, Oregon, right when my neighbor has started playing loud music, but that's how it goes. I thought I would show you some of the things that I got at the Hulda Klager Lilac Garden today. Now, I am a big pinch penny and I tend to get the smallest size whenever possible, and I'm very patient. I'm willing to wait many years sometimes for blooms. So I have a lilac in my front yard that I got 9 years ago as a tiny little start at the Hulda Klager Lilac Garden, and it is now pretty big and has been blooming for several years. So I'm okay with waiting again, because once again I got the tiniest size that they have. So these little tiny guys are $9 each, which is a lot for me. This first one is Sensation, and I was absolutely smitten with the white border on each of the florets on the lilac, and it grows about 8 to 10 feet tall, so I'm gonna have to find a corner where I can let it grow behind some other things. So the second one I got is called Purple Glory, and it had really deep, dark, lovely blossoms and a lovely fragrance. And this one is also, you know, about 8 by 6. The last one that I got, I actually texted some of my friends from the lilac garden because I could not believe what this lilac looked like. This is Agincourt Beauty. The size of the blossoms is obscene and it's very fragrant. Just unbelievably large florets, and they turn kind of a bluish cast as they age, so it has a lot of interest for a long time. So I hope you enjoyed my tour of the Hulda Klager Lilac Garden. It was a really fun experience for our family, or the portion of our family that went. It's something that I probably don't need to do every year, but I would love to keep going back periodically. I haven't been for 9 years, so going this year, it was exactly like how I remembered, except there were some new varieties and new plantings. The volunteers do a fantastic job keeping up the property. It's really beautiful. I love that you can walk around the lilacs and view them from every angle. You can touch them, you can pull them down and smell them, and really figure out what variety is going to work well for you. And I found that the volunteers were very knowledgeable and could answer questions that we had. So if you're in Woodland, Washington, and it is the 2 weeks of the year that they're open, definitely worth making a trip to the Hulda Klager Lilac Garden. Thanks for watching.